You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason, and welcome back to the table for another edition of Sunday Brunch with the Good Doctors.
The good doctors.
That's all right. Welcome back, sis. How you been?
It's been great. It's been a great week. Normally we start the week of, we have all these things happening and we have all these things. And I just decided that this week, those things are still happening, but I'm just going to change our dialogue a little bit and say it's a great week. Things are great. It's hot outside, but it's beautiful.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, this heat.
It's sweltering.
Listen, let me tell you, every day above ground, I say a milestone is better than a headstone. So I'm glad.
Okay, let's say that one more time. That right there will preach. A milestone is better than a headstone.
Oh, most definitely. So you got to, accept the good with the bad, although I would like a nice cool 76 degrees, I got to bear with this 98, so.
I'm just going to receive this. I'm going to receive it at this moment. This is my time of the year. This is what I love. And, normally we don't try to date our shows, but I think every now and then we need to stop and be grateful for the moment that we're in. And I'm just so thankful for summertime. I'm thankful for what that means in our lives. And even though we're still going, it's still a manifestation of some good, well-deserved relaxation, because I know you don't like to use the word rest.
Oh, no. As I tell folks, if it's your first time listening and joining us at the table, you never hear me talk about getting some rest or praying for some rest, because I don't want the Lord to get confused and call me
Hello. We have to be specific. We have to be specific in our prayers. You can't pray for just a husband. You need to pray for one that's not someone else's.
There you go.
You got to be specific.
Look, specific and intentional.
Hello.
Without a doubt. That's for sure. But in this weather, man, I'm going to tell you, just got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. We're just rolling off of Men's Health month in June and all or whatever. So, still keep, I always say, even though we talk about that's the month, we need to make sure we're dealing with that on a regular basis. So I try to make sure self-care for me is important.
And it's not selfish.
No.
Self-care is not selfish. And a lot of times people will try to make you feel guilty when you want to do things for yourself or take the time out for yourself. But you just have to let those people have their feelings. It's none of your business.
Correct.
It's none of your business. Their feelings are none of your business. It doesn't concern you. And you really do need to take care of yourself, because and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because it's leading up to what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. It's leading up to what we're going to talk about today. I am so excited about our guest today.
All right. Then, well, you go ahead and get us started at the table. I'm going to go ahead and hit that buffet line. That's what I'm going to do.
Listen. Right. I'm a little famished. I'm a little famished in this heat. So you know what to bring me back, the regulars.
Listen, I got your honey butter, your biscuits, and your bacon. I got you covered.
That's all I need in my life.
All right.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to introduce our guest, and I'm going to talk about our topic a little bit. We've been having a great kick of inviting African-American strong men to the show who have the ability to discuss not only their lives, but how their lives impact other people and high levels of emotional intelligence. And so I don't want to stop that kick. I do want to continue having some of these great conversations, but I want to also tie it into our health. And, as we age, things about our bodies change. And so I think we're going to enjoy our conversation with our conversationalist today, Dr. Tim Orr. Dr. Tim Orr, I want to welcome you to Sunday Brunch and to your home by the sea.
Yeah, welcome to the table.
Well, thank you
Yes,
so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Dr. Orr, do tell our listeners what your doctorate is in.
Okay. My doctorate is in sports management from North Central University. I have my bachelor's degree from East Carolina University in industrial technology and my master's from the United States Sports Academy in sports management.
All right.
All right.
That sounds all over the place.
All over the place.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
That's right.
What
That's
do you
right.
do with that? What do you do
Yeah.
with that?
My career started off, I was in athletic administration. I was director of marketing and public relations for the SIAC, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference in Atlanta. And I did that. And while I was doing that, I got the coaching bug. And I being a former Division I student athlete at East Carolina, a football player, and I went, and believe it or not, I went to a basketball tournament. And this was back in the early 90s where Rick Pitino was the head coach at the University of Kentucky. And I was hammered by, I just was amazed at the coaching techniques, the style, the way he conducted himself, where he carried. And I'm saying, man, coaching might be something I really want to do. So I reached out to some friends and some colleagues, and I'm gonna tell you when God is working in your life, because out of the blue, a gentleman that I had went to grad school with called me up out of the blue and said, Tim, I've been looking for you. He said, I just got the head coaching job at Idaho State University, and I wanted to know if you would be interested in a coaching position. We never talked about coaching ever. And out of the blue, he called me up and offered me a coaching position. I said, oh, you might be trying to tell me something. So I went to Pocatello, Idaho.
Where?
Pocatello, exactly. Pocatello, Idaho. And I went there for an interview. And this is the ironic thing. When I got there and I accepted the job, and when I got there, I was only the second African-American football coach in the history of the school.
Okay, because I was going to ask you,
I don't know where that is on the map.
Well, first of all, not even where it is, but do people look like us out there? I'm just going to keep it real.
Okay.
Only the potatoes. Only the potatoes.
Very few and in between.
Okay,
But the thing is, believe it or not, let me tell you, I didn't tell you who the first African-American coach for Idaho State was.
Okay.
Marvin Lewis. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Tamara. He used to be the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals for like 15 years. He used to be defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens, won the Super Bowl. I mean, just a Hall of Fame coach. He was the first, and I was the second. Now he's heading to the Hall of Fame, and then it's me. So hey, I'm not in the Hall of Fame. So
hey, that's not a big jump. I'm seeing Hall of Fame. I'm seeing Hall of Fame.
But yeah, and then when I got there, I was out there for a couple of years, and like you said, it wasn't a lot of us there, Rick, but the few that was there were good people.
Okay,
they were quality people, and I made some lasting friendships. Matter of fact, I still keep in contact with a few of them today.
Okay.
You know all 5 of them, I'm sure.
That's all 5 of them. That's right. All 5 of them. But I tell you, the funniest thing was one we was having dinner in the calf, right? You know, checking on the players and all. And we said it was a young girl from Idaho Falls. And she sat down there with us, and we had an interesting conversation. She said, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but the first time I actually met an African-American in person was when I went to college.
Wow.
Yes. That's the and you had to kind of destroy some of the stereotypes that they might have had of what the media was saying about African-American males.
And you're a tall African-American man.
Right. Now, back then, when they see you, they always compare you to a famous African-American. That's all they know. So you had to kind of get them out of that mindset.
Right.
That we all don't look alike.
We all don't look alike, you know. We don't think alike, you know. we still, you don't have, you can be successful without being, a professional athlete or entertainer.
Right.
So that's kind of the mindset, So I did my part in helping that out, trying to promote, a positive image of what a successful African American look like. So
well, that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
That is all right.
So how did you then end up at Hampton? Because I mean, that's apples and oranges journey, right there.
Okay, my journey is something. Like I said, I was in college coaching for about 20 years. I was defensive coordinator, Division I, Division II level. And then I got into athletic administration. I was athletic director at Livingstone College for a while. I was assistant athletic director at Elizabeth City State.
Okay.
And one of the things—
Viking Pride?
Was Viking Pride. That's right, Viking Pride. And what happened was I ended up teaching courses when I was coaching, because I had multiple stints at Elizabeth City State. And I was teaching physical education activity courses in the beginning, the first stint. But then I started getting into the academic side of things, started getting into sports management. And then I decided to start working on my doctorate. And I began that back in 2014, I believe, back in 2014. And so I was going through all that, and then I defended my dissertation on October 23rd, 2017. So I was teaching classes at Elizabeth City, and this is how I got to Hampton. When I was coordinator of sports management program at Elizabeth City, but I said, let me research and just reach out to some people to see how they run in their sports management program, trying to network, get some ideas of what I can do to help improve the program at Elizabeth City State. So I happened I researched and I reached out to Dr. Charlton, and he invited me to come and visit with him. And we just sat down and we talked, and lo and behold, we must have hit it off, because for me trying to talk to him about different ideas and ways that I can improve the program at Elizabeth City State, he ended up interviewing me for a position at Hampton in the same conversation. And I said, just totally caught me off guard. But he said, we got a position available. Would you be interested? It's closer to home. I'm from Virginia. I'm from Hampton. I'm a native of Hampton. Coming back home. So I'm like, that might be a great idea.
I heard you were a crabber.
That's right, a crab of pride. That's right.
All right, can't crush a crab.
Can't crush a crab. But I ended up, and he interviewed me then on the spot, and then I went to and talked to the dean, and then to Dr. Murphy and the provost, and we went through that, and lo and behold, I've been here ever since 2018. So, and like I said, Lord works in mysterious ways, because it was no intentions of coming here looking for a job, and look what God has did for me. So, I mean, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, and shout out
that whole little conversation. You thought you were doing research.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And ended up with
Dr. Charlton. Yep. Exactly. Shout out to Dr. Charlton for bringing you home.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Way to go, Ralph.
Because what I was saying, you hit the ground running. You came back home. You jumped right into being involved in the community. From jumping in with 100 Black men, 200 plus men, the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation. As well as the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Can't leave the good bros out,
Okay, bruh.
But you jump right on in, and you're heavily involved, even with church and all, So what has led you to be that person to want to give back, to be this involved like that?
Well, first of all, because somebody gave back to me. Like I said, I love this community. I was born and raised here. I love Hampton, Virginia. And the thing, it all started from my passion with coaching, the reason why I got into coaching. One of the reasons I got into coaching, because I seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of sports. Because I went from being in high school, I was All-American at Hampton High School, got a scholarship to go to East Carolina. Great. I got to East Carolina, injuries. But my college career didn't pan out like I was hoping it would. But the worst thing is—
You thought you were going to the NFL?
I was hoping that
Okay.
was the game
Okay.
plan, but
All right.
interest, took its toll. But the thing is, I done seen guys at the end of their eligibility, Rick, they didn't have, the eligibility was off, they didn't have a degree, they didn't have a pro career, and then all of a sudden the coaches forget your name. And it's like they moving on to the freshman class because they can help train them and move them. And it's like they just wasted. What do you have to show for yourself? And one of the things I share with my students is that, especially a lot of student athletes in my class, I say the only thing you can get from your college career is that I played ball, you done wasted 4 years of your life. And that's sad how many of them, I said, what experiences can you say you gained from being here? Well, I played ball, that's a waste. And I try to use that in my classes to help prepare them to transition life after sports. Because you got to realize, I've been a college football coach. I understand coaches' mindset is different, and there's nothing wrong with that. But coaches don't get hired and fired on graduation rates. They get hired and fired on wins and losses.
Right.
Can you say that one more time? One more time.
Exactly. They graduation, they're not going to get hired and fired on graduation rates. They get hired and fired on wins and losses. So a coach's mindset is different. So the thing is, they need an advocate on the academic side who understands the pressure of what they're going through. And I like to serve as that advocate because I done been on both sides. I've sat in the seats that y'all sat in. I done been the coach. I done been the AD. And
You've been on more than two sides.
Exactly. So I have to understand that you have to prepare yourself for life after sports. Because if you do go pro, that's great. Fantastic. Outstanding. But if that doesn't happen, what's your plan? And unfortunately, especially a lot of our African-American young men don't have that plan. So that's why it's up to people like me to help instill them, come up with a plan. Put yourself together. Because what I do, when I started doing these in the last couple of years, I try to have a working sports playbook that I have my students do in class. And what that is, you know how a lot of student athletes, they get playbooks and they read the playbooks to learn the schemes, learn the position, and stuff like that, prepare themselves for the game. So I said, why don't you use that same concept to prepare yourself for life? And what that working sports playbook is, it talks about what is your goals? What is your career goals? What do you want to do? Then I talk about who is a role model that's in your profession, what you want to do. How did they get there? Then it talks about your networking circle. Then it talks about, because I always say it's 5 people, certain types of people you got to have in your corner and your inner circle. And I talk about the person who's sort of the insider, the person who works in that field. You need a senior spokesman, somebody who's some wisdom, who's experienced, been through it, a seasoned veteran. You need your ride or die, somebody who's going to support you no matter what. And you need somebody who's going to be that the realist, who's going to keep you from getting the big head. When you think you're above and all, they're going to bring you back down to earth. You stay focused on what you got to do. And then you need that person that's going to, who's the person who knows somebody. They might not know it, but you need that connector. That person who might know somebody who knows somebody that can get you your foot in the door. So, and then we talk about the resume writing. You talk about internship opportunities because it's unfortunate. A lot of our young people, when I talk about wait to their senior year to the internships, I say, you're behind the game. The people that you're going to compete against have done internships since their sophomore, junior years. They're preparing. Because that's what people are going to look at. Because they can care less what that piece of paper say. They want to know who's going to speak on your behalf. And you don't get that by not getting some experience. So be willing to volunteer. Be willing to do shadowing people. Be willing just to get some experience so people can understand your work ethic. Because, they might not have a position, but they might know somebody who knows somebody who has a position.
That's right.
Put your name out there. So I talk about those type of things because it's so vitally important, especially with our student athletes, our young students, that transition, because everybody going to come to college, I'm going to the league. I'm going to the league. 99% of y'all not gonna make it.
99.9%.
So my thing is, what are you prepared to do? And that's what you need to have somebody to keep emphasizing, that preparing for life after sports. Sports ain't gonna last forever. And like I said, coaches got the things they got to do, but they got to have somebody who understands what they're going through, help preparing them for life. I take on that role because as a coach and as a professor, I've always, it's my duty to help them reach their full potential, whatever that might be. But I take on that as a role. So that's what helps me give back. And to get back to your question, Rick, like getting involved in the community, getting involved with the different organizations, it's just helping prepare people to reach their full potential. If I can do a little part in your life, help you reach to become the person that God has made you to be, I've done my job. And that's the only way. I got a servant mentality, a servant heart that I want to give back and help, because, you know, we need it. We got too many people that's going to try to tear you down, too many people that's trying to be selfish. They need somebody that's going to encourage you to keep moving forward, going to be that encourager, that motivates. Because one of the things I do with my former teammates from East Carolina, we started maybe about 3 weeks ago, and we have what we call a ECU prayer call. We have a prayer call 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
And it's about 14 of us. We get together, and it's just a great time laughing and joking, and then we just pray and talk about
laughing at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. But hey, you gotta understand that crew I'm talking about. You got to understand. I mean,
I guess with you guys being former athletes, you're accustomed to being together early in the mornings and working out and whatnot.
We used to had to be at a winter workouts at 5 a.m. So 7, we get to sleep in a little bit, so we good. But
I ain't got nothing to say though.
But one of the things that we talked about, like I said, I conduct the Mondays. I do what's called a Manhood Monday. And one of the things we talked about was, you know, what are you most proud of? And what do you think was the lesson that the Lord is teaching? And I shared this earlier, and about what I'm most proud of is resiliency. And they think, everybody would think because of my situation with the amputation, that, you know, being able to walk again and doing that, getting the prosthetic and trying to learn to walk again, I'll be most proud of. But actually, I mean, I'm thankful. I'm thankful about that. But the thing I'm really most proud of is the resiliency of my kids. And just to go tell you a little bit about this past year and with my situation, their mother had a stroke in the beginning of 2024. My daughter just graduated from North Carolina Central. At the end of 2024, I had my amputation. So you talking about in a year's time, both their parents had serious medical issues. And can you imagine the stress on them? Their senior year in college, and my son being here at Hampton with me, you know, he was taking care of me. And it's like, I can imagine the pressure that it was on. But, you know, he made it through. He persevered. And that's amazing. The thing about it, you talk about my daughter, she was in another state.
And he did it with love. He did it with love. I saw him pushing you around campus and helping you get where you need to be. He did it with grace and love, and he looked like he was more than happy to assist you.
And like I said, he's probably like he was proud of me, but I'm just as proud of him of what he's gone through. So, but it's like, I just always felt I'm an only child, you know, and I just always felt I just had a heart for helping others, you know, and that's why I've been involved. Like you said, I've been fortunate enough to take on leadership roles in the different organizations. I'm a couple of board of directors of a couple of foundations. I'm excited about that. The Y.H. Thomas Son of the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation. But it's just a matter of me just giving back. Anything I can do to help somebody be successful, I just think that's my purpose. That's God's will, to help serve somebody, help them be the success, and help them reach their full potential. That's what I'm all about. If
I
I
want
can
to
just do a
pause
little
for a
bit.
second. I want to pause for a second because you rushed over it as if it was nothing. Like you're just accustomed to just whipping your cape on and just pushing.
Right.
You ran through your whole amputation like like this is just a normal day in the life of Dr. Tim Orr. Like absolutely not. Usually when people have these life altering type of situations, they're so focused on themselves that they don't even really have the capacity to think about people outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But you had all these other obligations and things that you were involved with, and you did not stop any of those things.
No.
You did not put a pause on any of those things. You still showed up.
Thank you. I mean, because it made me, I can't let my circumstances, what they say, don't let your circumstances control you, you control your circumstances. And I just didn't want to use this as an excuse for me not being able to help someone. I mean, the bros, the organizations, people, the church, people have been tremendous. And one of the things when you become an amputee, I was a very independent person.
You were an athlete. Exactly.
And when losing that independence, that's a major, major blow. Because I'm used to getting up and go. If I had to get something, I can get up and go do it. Right? Can you imagine you've been like that way your whole life? Then all of a sudden, I can't make up my bed now. I can't take the trash out. I can't walk the dog. It's like my life is changed.
Things that people don't even think about. Like
right. It. You just take it for granted. It's just second nature. It's something you get out and do. It's like if I had to travel, I got to really sit down and figure out, because I need to take this chair, I need to take the shower. Just simple stuff. It's just, but it's a challenge. But people have been, you got friends, people in your life that support you and been understanding.
And you're not 5 pounds. So
exactly. I ain't the smallest person around here.
So you're not 5 pounds.
Exactly.
So not just anybody could just up and assist you. Like you really need great support. Yeah.
So that's right. Like I said, I have friends that's just been there in my corner supporting me, just been so inspirational and motivating me. I just fellow amputees that I knew, they would help me in getting through this process.
So you have a new cohort of individuals that you've connected with in this process?
Yeah, matter of fact, this was an old friend of mine from college.
Okay.
And she suffered, she's an amputee, and she suffered, must have been maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I reached out to her, and she talked me through it, because you think I'm busy, she's just as busy. And but just like I said, when you have people in your life that's there to support you, and I guess that's just so appreciative. But I have some of the brothers, they'll call on a regular basis, and they always check how you mentally, and they just check mental, how you doing. And like I say, I've always said, I'm thankful and grateful. I am thankful and grateful each and every day, because I remember, I never forget, after my first amputee, because it was a double amputee.
Wait a minute,
excuse me, hold on. Let me correct myself. It was a 2-part process.
Okay.
Because on December the 3rd, they amputated above the ankle, right? 2 days later, the doctor came in and was talking with me. He said, I tell you what, luckily you listened to your family, and they told you to go to the emergency room that day you did. Because that day I went from December 3rd, I went to the emergency room. They scheduled emergency surgery that night. Because he said, if you wouldn't have came, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because what happened, my body was septic. Because I didn't tell y'all the whole story. November 5th, I saw I had a blister on the side of my foot. I've been a diabetic since 1987.
Okay.
And I've had blisters on my feet periodically. I just put, treatment on it and seal it up, and it'll be fine. Some went well, some didn't. And I went to my podiatrist the Monday before Thanksgiving. So he took a look at it, and he said, okay, it's infected, but it's not bad. It didn't get to the bone. You're going to be okay. Just gave me some antibiotics, some pills or whatever. Said, just come back and we'll take a look at it later. Mm-hmm. That Friday after Thanksgiving, my body completely shut down. The kidneys went bad, my liver, my lungs went bad, everything was shut down. I went to patient first because things were close. I went to patient first saying, them take a look. Oh, it look like it's cellulitis. I think you'll be okay. Give me antibiotics. Mm-hmm. That Tuesday, that was a Saturday. That Tuesday, my family said, you need to forget all that. Go to the ER and see what they say. I went to the ER. They scheduled emergency surgery that night. And they went with the first amputee because they said my body was septic. Infection and got all the way up the upper part of my leg. Mm-hmm. And they had to see how far the infection got so they could see how far they got to cut. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was...
That was a fast process.
Yeah.
Right.
And what happened was they said that I went... they had to wait till my kidneys got stronger, my lungs got stronger, and my liver got strong in order for them to do the second procedure. Mm-hmm. And they came back a week later on the 9th and did the second procedure, and that's below the knee. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am now. So with all that being said, I mean, can you imagine? November 5th, I'm fine. Notice the blister. I'm used to it. Okay. December 9th, I'm a below the knee amputee. My life completely changed. So I went from being independent to, and like I said, Lord realized you can't make it on your own.
Right.
You need
that was
help.
Not what you asked for Christmas.
That wasn't on the Christmas list. But what he did teach me is that to be thankful and grateful for each and every day. Because there was a good chance I wasn't going to be here. But I'm here, so I'm thankful. I'm blessed to have the people in my life that's there for me, supporting me. I mean, and if there's anything I can do to give back, it's the least I can do. God got me here I'm here for a reason. And I'm just going to try to do the best I can to please him.
And that's real talk, because I will say this. You were sending messages out to our men's group, and I was thinking, oh, let me reach out. And I was like, wait a minute, Tim is saying he's going in for surgery. Hold on a minute. So then you're coming back, and it's like, you're still sending messages out. It's like, hey, bro, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Let's focus on you for a moment. You know what I'm saying? But that's the inspiration that I think people need to hear, and it's a challenge. You recognize, hey, this life is challenging. And I'm sure there's some days that are not as good as others. But what I see, and I said is good when I talked to our producer about bringing you on the show, was the resilience that's there. All that you continue to do in terms of giving back and working in the at church in the men's ministry, things. We just had a breakfast. You working the door. You greet people and take checking folks in.
I'm telling you, I'm waiting for you to be walking again so you can be a marshal.
Listen, that part. So it's so easy sometimes to just fall into a pity party for yourself, and sometimes we need to see that, hey, it's okay to have my own challenges, but you know what? I don't have to stay there, and whether I choose to, have positive self-talk with myself, or if it's the people that are around you, you talk about those 5 people you need in your life, and I'm sure those people have basically stepped in at this point. Sometimes the realist might say, bruh, sit yourself down. We were talking and you said, hey, I got a little setback, because a wound has opened up as I've been working, with this new prosthetic. Right. The wound opened up. The realist probably says, sit down for a minute. You know?
Exactly.
You gonna get there. That's it. But you also had that encourager that said, hey, bro, you're doing a great job. It's gonna be all right, And we all need that. And so that's the piece. When you find the right people in your life, and you highlighted, like I said, some key people, it really shows. And your life and what you've done is so easy for folks to sit down and say, poor Tim. But it's hard to say poor Tim when Tim is out here making life happen and doing things.
Tim is making the lazy look real lazy. Tim has got some people contemplating some things at this moment. I wanted you to invite him on the show because I had seen him out there really advertising some of the things he was doing, specifically when you were working on getting your prosthetic. And I was like, wow, that is really quick. Like you never sat in 1 second of this circumstance has occurred. It just seemed like you were like, and what? So what? Now what? But I wanted you to be able to talk about it because a lot of times people see that from the outside, but they don't really know how that happens. They don't really know what it takes for that to happen. And they don't really know that you don't always feel that way all the time.
Right.
That it's a decision that you have to make every single circumstance to still get out there and do that, to do it when you don't feel like doing it. Like it's still, those conversations still come up. Like I'm sure you're still grieving this process in the life that was happening before. Just like when you decide, when it was decided that you weren't going to do the NFL, that's still a grieving process when you have to redefine things and figure out what next. And some of us make it look really easy. And you shot across those steps the way they came to you, but that's not easy. That in itself is not easy. That level of grit is not easy. And I'm sure that a lot of it came from who you are just in general, but also the training that you put yourself through over the years, the discipline that you put yourself through over the years, that rigor. That
it contributes to your background, parents, all that contributes. I was the only child. So a lot of times growing up, and I had older parents. So a lot of times you had to do that self-talk because you didn't have nobody else. You had to learn through trial and error. Because you didn't have nobody to kind of give you that warning and stuff. So it all starts from your beginning. And this the mindset that my parents put into me, we always continue to move forward. I never get one of the pieces of advice my father always gave, said, no matter what you do in life, you make sure you do it the best of your ability. I don't care. He said, I don't care if you're, I don't know, anywhere, if you're not saying there's anything wrong with it, being a custodian, mechanic, a teacher, doctor, lawyer, whatever your profession is, you be the best that you can be. By giving it your best, you glorifying God in whatever you do. And that's what he taught me. Be the best that you can be at it. And if anything less, you give it your best, no matter what other people say, you glorifying God. And that's all I want to do. Just do the best I can. And like I said, that's all I can do. I ain't say I am the best. I just say I can do the best I can. And that's all I can ask for.
And there's a difference.
That's it.
Well, we certainly see you doing your best.
Yes.
Exactly.
Better than a lot of the rest. Because I'm gonna be honest, I would have to sit down for a second. It was just story alone is traumatizing with PTSD for me. I would have to sit down for a second. It's different things to different people, especially when you define yourself in certain ways. But what I can appreciate from your story is your redefinition. And to allowing yourself to not change your purpose. Your purpose hasn't changed. What you're doing, your work that you're doing in the community, none of that has changed. Your vehicle to fulfill that purpose has only slightly changed.
Yeah, you have to define what that new normal looks like. and your like Tamara was saying, your purpose hasn't changed and what you're doing hasn't changed, but it's the how that may have to change because of what your new normal looks like, whereas you might not have been able to, run the race that you used to run, but hey, now I'm coaching folks who are running the races, that type of thing. And so that's sometimes a struggle. I know with people, sometimes when they're dealing with certain things, having to redefine that new normal. And sometimes people think that it's also redefining their purpose and what they are supposed to be doing. And it's not necessarily that, it's redefining the how that it is that you're supposed to be doing. If pouring into kids is what I'm supposed to be doing, then under my new normal, I have to figure out, what does that look like? How can I continue to fulfill what that purpose is? And like I said, you have not missed a beat when it comes to some of the stuff that you're doing, actively involved in the community. You're working to get the Collegiate 100 started on campus. So all of the stuff you're doing, like I said, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, well, this is going to slow down just a little bit, and it's almost like you don't put the foot you still got on the gas. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's it.
He has not taken a time out. But I love that. I love that too, because people need to understand that the race has never been given to the swift, but always to the one that endures into the end. And then the end is relative in the sense of, like, when we say the different vehicles, everybody can't fly. Some people need to drive the train. Some people gonna have to walk on their 2 good feet, or they may have to roll. Like that. It's just a way in which we can still operate. But I love that. Even though it altered your physical body, it didn't alter your real spirit. The way in which you show up. You still show up with that same light, that same energy. And you're not less of a person because of the circumstance. It's actually made you more of an individual. It's added something extra to your repertoire.
And I have to say, I can see your relationship with God, that whole Christ mentality, with that. Like I said, there's still the inspiration you share with the men's ministry, and just putting that information out there, and the stuff you're doing with the 200 plus men. Like I said, I look up and you're still serving on these committees, This brother is just doing it,
He is serving, because I'm hearing about getting called into service myself. So I'm like, he really working.
That's it. We definitely need you. We need you.
Exactly. So look, your name on the list.
Your name is on the list. Your name is on the list.
I heard about it.
It's been sent out.
I heard about it. But that's okay. The good thing about our table that we invite people to all the time, and just the way that Dr. Mason and I operate, we circle around people who are not afraid to put in the good work, that hard work, and that real work. And we work ourselves out tirelessly to be in those different places, to show up, because we, like you, recognize that it's important, and it's not just about us, and it's well outside of us, and it's the legacy that we want to leave here. So it's not a mistake that there's a Delta and two Qs on the line.
All right.
At the table today, we're gonna put in that work, and it's necessary to do those things for the community.
Oh, that's it. And my mantra is certainly that we are here for a reason. And sometimes we may not understand why things happen to us, but sometimes it's not about us. Sometimes it's about what that means to other people, for other people to see our resilience or our light, or how we handle certain situations, And so I've learned, although there are times I admit that I look at situations and I'm thinking, Lord, why, but I had to learn, when things happen, instead of saying why, asking the Lord why, it's like, okay, Lord, well, how are we going to do this? This is you put me here. How are we gonna navigate these waters? At this point,
respectfully, spiritually, as you would have me to, Father.
You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point, and you talk about the why. And one of the things I share with my son and try to teach him I say the two most important days of your life. The day you was born and the day you realize why you was born.
Mm-hmm.
And then once, he young right now, so I don't know if he got to that point yet. But when it do, it like opens up everything. Once you figure out why you here, what's your purpose, then that's the important date in your life. So it's a process. It's a process, and you go through your trial and errors and get to that point. So you hopefully that they realize that it'll click in. And then once they realize that, then I've done my part. You understand?
That's it. And just learning how to trust God. Like I said, because I tell folks with situations that come up, I tell you, I have to seek God, because there's some things, I tell folks, I'm human, I got flesh. And if I solve some things the way I think right out the gate sometimes, I might get a charge. So therefore, I have to seek the Lord. You know what I mean? So and that's just being real.
Present in your life.
Exactly. Because I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy dealing with people, because there's some mean-spirited people out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes, people take your kindness. Yeah, they take your kindness for weakness, and it's like, they think they can do just anything to you or whatever. But like I said, I have to pray, and like I said, let the Lord fight your battles, and it's like I have to, because like I said, y'all will be bailing the brother out. We'll be doing Sunday brunch, on the other side of them gates.
No, and no. I am not co-signing on that.
Listen.
Not
and I
at
tell
all.
you,
Listen, but I thank God that He has people in your life that will tell you to the corner you go. Because there's times that I've sent you to the corner, and there's times that you sent me to the corner too.
Oh, most definitely. Definitely.
You gotta have people that help you balance it out. You both can't be wigging at the same time. But I just thank God that He does place us in opportunity. He has a sense of humor. He says He doesn't put more on you than you can bear, but sometimes it does feel a little heavy. And so I thank God that, before you give out, before your knees buckle, that, people do come in. And when you're good to people, people will be good to you. And it's not necessarily the people that you've been good to.
That's right.
That will return that. But, God looks out for His people. He takes care of His own. So it's just how we handle the situations. And when you're talking about bailing you out, that's not even a problem. Both of you know that you are well versed in the clinical field, that we know exactly what to say to never see the backside of that bar.
Exactly.
we might sit in somebody's hospital, but we're gonna be released shortly. And we thank God though for that, and for our ability to. It's not the situations we find ourselves in, but how we handle those situations.
Exactly. So what's next for Dr. Orr? What's next? What's leading us into this next chapter? Where we going?
Well, as you mentioned briefly before, we're trying to establish the Collegiate 100 on campus. We're in the process now. We got the applications in on campus as well as the national office. We're waiting to hear it, I guess, in August. They'll give us the word. So hopefully we can get started with that. I think that'd be a great opportunity to mentor to the young college students and get them involved in different activities in the community. I know we want to work closely with the NAACP and the youth organization of that. I know we have spoken with their representatives about that. Also, I've always had a passion, when I talked about preparing student athletes for life after sports, and the next thing I've shared with you that, I really would like to start this academy, next level leadership academy, where we gear towards seniors in high school and their parents, how to prepare for the next chapter in their life. Whether it's being a college student athlete, whether it's being just a college student, whether it's being at a trade school or going to the workforce or going to the military. But how do you prepare for that next step? Because the one thing I'm going to continue to do is try to help people prepare for that life after sports. Because if you identify yourself as an athlete your whole life, you don't know who the real person is.
Mm-hmm.
You've always been Tim Moore, the athlete, instead of Tim Moore. It's time for somebody to help you figure out who Tim Moore is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing I'll try to do. What I like to do is to start that academy where it's a 10-week session where we'll meet with the senior student athletes and their parents, whoever's interested, and just try to gear them, prepare them for that next phase. How their role, how they can work together to make the most out of the next experience. Because I'm telling you, I done seen situations being a coach. I done seen parents get too involved in the child's college career, and it hurts the child. You know, I done seen situations where they get through it and then they've been identified as an athlete so much, they don't know what the real person is. And then once athletes, if you get an injury, a career-ending injury, then all of a sudden, they don't know what to do. You know, I done seen student athletes say, well, if it wasn't for ball, I wouldn't be in school. What are you going to do? You see, and that's the unfortunate thing. And
I think that's a great idea. But I think once you hit those high school, now jump to the middle school, because I think that is where that, you talk about identity and figuring out who you are. That's when they're really struggling with that at that middle school age. And if you can tap into the athletes and help them understand themselves before they, outside of just being an athlete, before they get to that high school age, you might have a better chance of more time formulating and mentoring with them, and helping their parents also adjust to that, of seeing, how we started changing that language of student athletes and making sure that they understood that they were students first and then athletes afterwards, like really working on that language.
And the biggest challenge is that now with these NILs and the transfer portal, it's becoming almost like a professional league, a farm system for the pros, because now, loyalty is out the window. Everybody's trying to say, what's in it for me? What can you get me? And if they no longer does a young man a young lady has to compete to earn a position. If they upset, I just transfer, or somebody else will give me a better deal. Whoever gives me the better deal, I'm going. So you develop no loyalty. You got kids that's gonna, oh man, the coach fussed at me. Oh, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go to another school. Just because you got fussed at?
Right.
You got to understand how you're gonna handle. See, so it's a whole different animal these days that we have to learn to deal with. And I just hopefully that I like to pray to put something together and help just guide them through it and have open dialogue about the challenges. What are some of the concerns, and how are some possible strategies you can use to help navigate through those those rough waters, because it's about to be rough. It's a different animal today, so it's just that's some of the bigger things I'm trying to do.
Well, let me drop this into your hearing, okay? Because in all of this, you just don't understand. I've just heard the context of a book, that could be put together for middle schoolers, even high schoolers. How do you begin to, find out who you are, discovering yourself, but then how do you navigate these rough waters? And then what does that resilience look like? At that point, and how do you continue to navigate those waters, starting from that middle school athlete all the way through college, and having setbacks and everything or whatever. How do we navigate this process? You follow what I'm saying? So that's what I see. You just laid it out.
We can go. We can go, because I see a children's book. What you talking about?
Listen,
when they first touch a ball, you should be teaching them those lessons.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. I'm telling you, you're definitely onto something. So you're definitely onto something, and it's relevant. And especially like you brought up NIL, it's stuff that needs to come out right now, because of course with this whole NIL process, it's people are looking at it for the dollar value and what that's all about. But we really have to look at what does that do in terms of character. And how do we get to that place of understanding how does that inform our personality and where we're going with this thing, and how do we use this to get to the next level, and not necessarily saying, give me 20,000, give me 100,000, whatever, but how are we turning that into something that's going to help change lives? Because this NIL can truly be a trajectory moment for some kids in terms of making some life-changing, creating some life-changing opportunities. But what are they going to do with it? And how is it changing? Because for some, they get their hands on that money or even that opportunity and it's blown, So, I see lots of diversity in terms of where you can go with this. And I'm excited. Yeah, I'm definitely excited.
Well, I appreciate it.
Definitely
Absolutely.
excited. Well, I will tell you this. I've enjoyed this time at the table. And Tim, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story of hope, your story of resilience, and the efficacy for what sports can look like from a strong mentoring component. That's for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I am Dr. Richard Mason.
And I am Dr. Tamara Williams.
And thank you for joining us right here at WHOV Smooth 88.1 FM for the most delicious hour in radio.
The essence of HU.
Keep your fork.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.